Hey everyone, PayPal is set to report first quarter 2024 earnings results on April 30th in the morning, and so investors are curious if they should buy the stock before that report. So I'll answer that question. I'll preview what to look for when PayPal reports those earnings results, the big items you should pay attention to, and then I'll answer if I think you should buy before or after, or if you should buy at all. So let's take a look at these numbers.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, so one of the first things I'll be looking for from PayPal is a stabilization from a decreasing active account base. Now, in their latest quarter, they reported 426 million active accounts, and that was down 2.5 million from the previous quarter. Now, PayPal says these are churn or cancellations of unprofitable accounts that they're not trying to engage with anymore. However, this has now been several quarters, I believe 4 or 5 consecutive quarters, where PayPal has shed millions of active accounts. That's a critical component of PayPal's business. The more active accounts PayPal has, the more it can engage with merchants and get merchants to accept PayPal as a payment method, which then makes it more attractive to engage with new active accounts, which then makes merchants more interested in accepting PayPal as a payment method. And that is the positive virtuous cycle that can build PayPal into a massive payment network, similar to what Visa and MasterCard have done. Remember, Visa has over 4 billion people that have a Visa card, or 4 billion Visa cards in people's wallets. That's what gives Visa such a strong competitive advantage. Merchants are almost obligated to accept Visa as a payment method because they don't want to miss out on those potential 4 billion customers. Similar with PayPal, the more active accounts it creates or it contains or it has, the more attractive it is as a payment method for merchants. So that's the area, first and foremost, I'll be looking into for PayPal to deliver in terms of progress, at least stabilizing these losses, if not turning things around. So the next thing I'm going to look at is PayPal's transaction margin. They did make improvement in the latest quarter, where its transaction margin improved by 3.5 points sequentially. This had been similar to PayPal's active accounts, where for several consecutive quarters it had been declining as more of its revenue was coming from non-branded PayPal revenue, including things like Braintree, which is not a PayPal branded checkout, which comes with lower profit margin compared with when people use PayPal to check out. So this is a metric that they turned around, turned positive. I want to see this continue. I want to see the trend start to move in the upward direction. It was negative for several consecutive quarters and then positive for one quarter. I want to see it continue to be positive. If it reverses negative again, that could be a really bad sign for investors, and the stock price is very likely to react to that badly if that is indeed what happens. However, if it moves positive, that's one more risk that's alleviated for PayPal stock investors. All right, another thing I'm watching is PayPal's free cash flow. In fiscal year 2023, PayPal generated $4.2 billion in free cash flow, and it's forecasting $5 billion in free cash flow for 2024. I want to see if the first quarter allows it to increase that forecast for free cash flow or reiterate that free cash flow target for 2024. Already, growing your free cash flow from 4.2 billion to 5 billion is solid. That's a roughly 800 million increase, or roughly 25% increase in free cash flow year over year. That would be solid. If PayPal reiterates that and maybe increases the confidence that they're going to hit that target and perhaps raise the target, instead of saying right now they're forecasting approximately 5 billion. So that could mean 4.9 or 4.8 or 4.7 even for 2024. If they change the wording to at least 5 billion, that would be really positive. That would mean that they're looking at least 5 billion, maybe 5.1, maybe 5.2, maybe 5.3, even 5.4 if the rest of the year turns out really positive. So I'll be looking at that forecast from PayPal when they announced their earnings results. Now, I'm also looking at their earnings per share guidance for 2024. This guidance sent the stock price crashing after management said that for 2024, they don't expect any earnings growth. They think earnings are going to be flat year over year. And when they announced that, the stock price fell considerably. Management did say that this is a conservative forecast, that they wouldn't be surprised if they upgraded this outlook as the year progresses. I'll be looking for this. Are you going to upgrade this forecast after Q1? If they don't upgrade this forecast, I think investors will be disappointed. I think investors will want to see some upgrade to this forecast, even if they say low single digit growth or mid single digit growth. I think investors will be happy with that increase because it opens the gate for another increase and upgrade after the next quarter. So if they upgrade after the first quarter to low single digits, then maybe in the second quarter they'll upgrade again. And so it sets up a positive virtuous cycle for the next few quarters for PayPal potentially. So I'll be watching out for that as well. Now, on top of all of this, remember the new CEO has only been in there for a few months now, and I want to see the strategic changes, implementations, and what progress the CEO has made in right-sizing this business. Are there any more cost cuts coming? There's already been some job cuts announced. Is there any restructuring, any other business lines, any other news, I should say, about a product offering from PayPal? So a lot of things to look out for here from PayPal stock investors. Now, PayPal's trading at a forward price to earnings of 11.67, which is relatively cheap for this stock. You could look back here over the last 3 years. This has been roughly the cheapest you've been able to buy PayPal stock. It's trading at a cheap valuation because of those prospects that I highlighted earlier. The millions of active accounts that are leaving, the flat earnings per share forecast, and the transition to a new CEO is always a little bit more risky, especially when the CEO is coming from outside of the organization. So the transition may be choppy, and that's added risk for investors. Now, I've had PayPal stock rated as my one on my list of top stocks to buy in 2024. It's up 7.4% year to date. Relatively good performance so far in the year. Now, as I mentioned, I've had PayPal stock rated as one of my top stocks to buy here, one of my top 10 growth stocks, and one of my top 25 stocks to buy, as you can see here on my list. So investors interested in buying PayPal before or after earnings, I generally say that around an earnings release, a company's stock becomes more risky because it's more volatile. The price of a stock moves more violently around the earnings release, especially in the day or two after the earnings release. So there's an elevated level of risk. If you want to avoid that risk, you can buy a couple of days after the earnings come out. PayPal, I like the stock. I think it's a good risk versus reward. I think it's even worthwhile. You can buy it even before earnings, even considering the extra risk that comes along with it because the valuation is so cheap. I think it makes sense here. It has more upside than downside, in my opinion, following the earnings release. For instance, if PayPal were to upgrade that earnings per share forecast, instead of saying it's going to be flat, if they were to say something like it's going to be up by mid-single digits for the year, that upgrade could send PayPal stock price up by roughly 10% in and of itself. So there is good upside here for PayPal stock. For those that are risk averse, I would suggest waiting until after the earnings come out. For those that don't mind the elevated risk, you can buy it before the earnings come out as well. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.